Welcome everyone. Um, this is LifeLine Animal Project's 2020 Spring Kitten Shower, the virtual version. I hope everyone is staying healthy and taking care of themselves. So we're gonna get started, and if you have any questions, feel free to enter them into the chat. We've got a few people in there that are willing to answer questions, employees and other foster coordinators, experienced fosters. So we'll try to get to questions at the end, and then we have a little kind of group surprise for everyone at the end. All right, so the first question I think people ask walking into a shelter who want fosters, how do I become a foster? Obviously, everyone's gonna tell you to consider, the time, space, what your schedule looks like. But I think that there are groups of cats and kittens that are that can fit for almost anyone's schedule, anyone's space. So really, you just need to meet basic requirements, fill out an online questionnaire, or contact your foster coordinator. We'll have some information for that later. So foster requirements. So for LifeLine, you need to be at least 18 years old, live within a reasonable travel distance. This varies by shelter. So for DeKalb County, where I am the feline foster coordinator, we ask that people live within 45 minutes of the shelter, just in case there's an emergency. We want to make sure that you can actually get to the shelter or get to the emergency vet. Oh, my apologies. You need to be able to provide transportation for boosters, veterinary visits, or emergencies. And that could be coming to the shelter or going to another clinic if the shelter is closed. Be able to provide a safe indoor temperature controlled space and adequate food for the kittens. A lot of that we will help you with. And then Georgia law requires a home visit every 6 months to make sure that you are able to provide that safe indoor space. And finally, we just ask that you stay in contact with us, especially if your kitten's having medical concerns, letting us know. That's the quickest way for us to be able to get that kitten help. So being able to stay in contact with you and stay in contact with our medical team and stuff like that is really important. All right, so today's overview for the kitten shower, we're going to talk about the different categories of kittens available to foster, how to set up your space for each of those categories, the time requirements for them, and any supplies you might need. At the end, we'll talk about resources that you have as a foster for LifeLine and what to do in case of an emergency, to kind of give you an idea how to prep for that before you even take kittens into your home. Our first category is bottle babies. In my professional opinion, these guys are the most fun, but they're also the hardest to take care of. They are going to require a lot more time than other categories of kittens because they need to be fed every 2 to 4 hours. They can't go to the bathroom on their own. They can't see, hear, or regulate their body temperature. So they can be really vulnerable, especially if you get into a spot where the kitten gets sick or something like that. So you're gonna stimulate them for them to go to the bathroom before or after you feed. I do before. They need to be on a heat source, like a heating pad, 24 hours a day. You're gonna weigh them before and after each feeding so you know that they're gaining weight, and then watch them for any signs of illness. In kittens this young, the first sign of illness is losing weight. It's really easy for them to get cold or drop their blood sugar or lose weight. So keeping track of stuff like that can be, the difference between something being caught ahead of time and something becoming an emergency. Bottle babies are going to be 0 to 4 weeks. So a newborn kitten is still going to have its umbilical cord attached, eyes closed, ears folded. They can't regulate their body temperature, like I said. At a week, they still can't regulate their body temperature, and they won't be able to probably until between 3 to 4 weeks. But their eyes do open at 8 to 12 days, and then around 3 weeks, they will open their ears and be able to hear you enter their room. They'll start screaming for food when they hear you because they associate you with food. It's a really fun age. At 2 weeks, their eyes are completely open. Everybody starts with blue eyes, so don't get super excited that your baby's going to grow up with blue eyes because it's likely they're going to change, but they don't change until quite a bit later. They're going to be wobbly on their feet, but you're going to start seeing them move around a little bit more around 2 weeks. At 3 weeks, you're going to start seeing teeth on the very front of their mouth. These are the incisors, and they're used for grooming. So right around 3 weeks, you're also going to see them starting to like nibble on themselves and lick their fur. Maybe if they're in a litter, you're going to see them grooming each other. Their ears pop up, and they're super tiny little cute triangles. And this is right around the age where they also start discovering the litter box. 3 weeks, again, is a great age. They're a little bit messy because they're figuring out that litter box, but they're starting to figure out, what toys are and how to move and actually be cats. And then when they hit 4 weeks, you'll see their canines emerge. Those are the four pointy teeth on the front of their mouth. Their vision improves. They start walking more confidently. They start getting playful. That age also is a lot of fun. So to set up bottle babies, there's a little video here. You can use a plastic carrier or a bin. I use a bin at home and a carrier to travel. Some kind of soft blanket, a heat source like a microwavable heating pad, and then a comfort source. The animals in this video are called snuggle puppies or snuggle kitties, and they have a little battery operated heartbeat in them that's really comforting for the kittens. For supplies, all of our supply lists, you'll see little stars next to some of the items. These are items that we will supply when we have them available. We recently got, a really generous grant from an organization to purchase supplies to help us support our fosters and support you guys. And I think it's going to be really helpful in general, but also with times right now, people are out of work. We're going to supply as much as we can so you don't have to worry about this being a hurdle for you to jump over in order to foster. So again, a carrier or a bin. We can provide a cardboard carrier at DeKalb. Sometimes we have plastic carriers that we can provide. Blankets and towels are great for keeping them clean and warm, nice, soft, comforting bed. A heating pad, toys or a snuggle companion, bottles and nipples and formula for feeding, a scale to track their weight, baby wipes, and a toothbrush for grooming, and then cleaning supplies and emergency supplies. The thermometer and Karo syrup are great. If their blood sugar drops or if they get too cold, you can keep track of that and start getting them kind of back running like a healthy, normal kitten. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's called Fading Kitten Protocol. And it's really important to know when you're taking home teeny tiny babies. So, all right, our next group is going to be in-betweeners. And these guys are going to be between 4 and 5 weeks. So this is right around the age where they start getting premolars, which are the teeth on the side of their mouth. That means that you can start introducing meats or wet kitten food. These guys are going to eat about every 4 to 6 hours. Usually they can go overnight without a feeding, but you want to feed them right before bed and right before you wake up. They eat what we call mush or a slurry, which is a mixture of wet food and formula. Some people will use water, but especially if they're underweight, I usually recommend using formula so that whatever liquid is in there is still giving them calories. They might need help learning to eat from a dish. They might require syringe feeding if they're not quite figuring out the dish, but they want to chew the tip of a bottle nipple off. Um, these guys are going to be around the age where you're going to start litter box training. You're going to weigh them once a day just to make sure they're gaining weight, and then keep an eye on them for illnesses. With these guys, because you're introducing new food, tummy trouble like diarrhea and gassiness is really common. So don't let that kind of scare you away if they start having issues with their belly. So these guys, all the way to the right, around 5 weeks, again, their premolars emerge. They can start eating meat food or wet food, and they are so playful and rambunctious and a lot of fun also. To set them up, you can use a plastic carrier, a fabric playpen like in the video, again, blankets, a heat source, especially if your house gets chilly. They're starting to be able to regulate their own body temperature, but they're not very good at it yet. You can add a bed, a snuggle companion like a snuggle kitty or just a stuffed animal. And then you want to have a really shallow litter box. We use aluminum baking trays, like the disposable ones, but you can also use like the cardboard trays that wet kitten food comes in, like you'll see in the video right there, and then really shallow food and water dishes. This keeps them from tipping the dishes over, because honestly, they can be a little messy, but it also keeps them from having to reach really hard to get into that food dish. So the lower the obstacles, the more likely they are to start eating on their own. You can also purchase, Amazon sells these, a lot of places sell them, these plastic playpens. I love these. They snap together with like the little circles on the side, and you can zip tie them to make doors. They're really easy to sanitize, and then when the kittens get a little bit older, if you turn the panels upright, it's a lot harder for them to jump over. So they're pretty affordable, and you can set up multiple spaces if you're the kind of person that fosters multiple litters, and then just put puppy pads or blankets or something underneath it so that they don't get mess on your floor. Supplies for in-betweeners are going to be a mixture of supplies for your average cat and supplies for bottle babies, because they kind of fit somewhere in the middle. And it's really important to meet them exactly where they are. So having a playpen or a spare room, a carrier for travel. I don't recommend keeping them in a small carrier long term, but if you have like a very large airline kennel for like a dog, you can keep kittens in there. Food and water dishes, a shallow litter box, non-clumping litter. We use yesterday's news. It's a recycled paper litter. Blankets and towels, wet canned food, which we will provide, formula, bottles and nipples, just to make sure they're getting a full meal. A scale, again, to keep weighing them, baby wipes and toothbrush for grooming and keeping them clean, and then your emergency supplies like a heating pad, Karo syrup for if their blood sugar gets too low, and a thermometer to check their temperature if they feel cold. These guys require a lot of patience too. They can be a little finicky about the food that you give them, or they'll seem like they're figuring out how to eat on their own one day, and then the next day they look at you like it's like you left them in the middle of nowhere with nothing to eat. So taking it one step at a time is really important for these guys. All right, this one is the most popular, our weaned kittens, because they're easy and they're playful and they're crazy, and they're really close to being able to go up for adoption. These are great for first-time fosters because you can leave them for, you can kind of forget about them for a few hours and they're going to be totally fine. They're also good for people who work a little bit more, or can't come home in the middle of the day to check on kids. So these guys, you're just going to leave a dish of kibble down and give them some wet food 2 or 3 times a day. Lots of play, teaching them not to play with hands and to play with toys. getting them ready for adoptive homes. And then you're going to weigh them minimum once or twice a week. It doesn't hurt to weigh them more. You can never weigh your kitten too much, but at least once or twice a week so that you can let your foster coordinator know once they hit that 2 pounds. At 2 pounds, that's when we spay them and neuter them and send them out to their adoptive families. And again, like any other group, you're going to watch them for any signs of illness like coughing, sneezing, hair loss, stuff like that. All right, 6 to 8 weeks, they're going to have all of their teeth, eating really confidently. They're probably going to be little piglets and eat you through house and home. But the good news is we give you that food for them to eat. So they're starting to transition to their adult eye color. Usually between 7 and 8 weeks, they'll turn a little bit gray, and then you'll see that full eye color emerge once they hit 8 weeks. They're very coordinated, very playful, and again, once they hit that 2 pounds, they can be spayed or neutered and placed into their forever home as long as there are no underlying illnesses. So for these guys, they're going to go in a room, and you can add tons of toys. They can also stay in a playpen if you don't have a spare room. You can use a large dog crate. They're going to be really rambunctious, so you don't want to use anything that they're going to be able to get out of. And if you do have them in a spare room, make sure you kitten proof it. So put away cords, make sure there aren't random chemicals, small objects, or like small spaces for them to get stuck in. Kittens will go anywhere they have the opportunity to. So making sure that that space is safe for them is really important. Add blankets, beds, tons of toys, and then food and water dishes. The most important thing here is that they have really easy access to a litter box. I think probably one of the #1 questions for the older kittens that I get is that they're going to the bathroom where they're not supposed to be. And I like to call this potty panic because they don't think they can get to the litter box before they have to go. So having a litter box in each corner of the room, or having multiple litter boxes, or if they're playing on your bed, giving them a break every couple hours to go into the litter box, that'll help a lot with the litter box training, and you won't see as many accidents if any. All right, families are a lot of fun too. These guys are about as easy as the older weaned kittens. Generally, the kittens are under 8 weeks. We usually separate mom from kittens at 8 weeks. You're gonna feed mom kitten food. This helps keep her calorie intake up. Wet and dry food, usually. We have people feed moms. And you might see their weight drop a little bit, and that's just a sign that, she's feeding those babies really well, usually. So feeding her kitten food helps keep her, healthy enough to feed those babies. Feed mom as much as she wants. Again, she's feeding those babies, so for her to feed those babies, she's going to be really hungry. We have mama cats that go through a whole bowl of food and plus 6 cans of wet food every day. We kind of expect it with mamas, especially if they have more than 3 or 4 kittens. The great thing is mom does most of the work. You don't really have to mess with the babies. It is good to know basic bottle feeding skills just in case mama isn't producing enough milk, or if she's not able to feed one of the babies, just to get them through the night and get them back to us so we can find somebody who is more confident in bottle feeding if you don't want to. Weighing the kittens daily helps make sure that they are getting enough milk from mom, and that's how you know if you need to step in or not. Watch them for illness, and then when they're a little bit older, you're going to help wean them from mom. This is very similar to, your bottle babies or your in-betweeners weaning. The only difference is mom is there to step in and make sure that they're getting a full meal so that they keep growing. The last category is going to be our adult cats and special needs kittens and cats. These guys can be any age, and their needs are going to vary pretty widely. So you can specialize in this special needs category if you want to, and let your foster coordinator know that you really like taking certain kinds of kittens. So probably our most common for special needs is going to be medical and socialization. Um, Kittens, once they hit 2 pounds, are ready for adoption, and they can't be in a trap neuter return program until they are at least 12 weeks. So that middle spot between 8 and 12 weeks, if you have hissy spitty kittens, we try to get them out to foster so that they can learn how to be kittens. It's the perfect socialization period for them. So we'll send these guys out to foster, handle them really carefully, feed them while you're around, and you'll see them kind of flip from being terrified and trying to bite you to the sweetest kittens ever, and then we put them up for adoption just like everybody else. For kittens, tummy trouble, again, the gassiness, diarrhea issues, upper respiratory infections like coughing or sneezing, and then ringworm is also really common. These guys all do much better. They heal a lot faster when they're in a foster home. And then finally, we have other medical needs and adult cats. Really common for adult cats is cats who just don't do well in a shelter but can't be put into a trap neuter return program. So they have special behavioral needs that they need to be out of the shelter and in a foster home, or we will take the time to send them to a foster home just to learn a little bit more about them. It's pretty rare that adults get sent out to foster just because somebody wants to foster a cat. Usually there's a very specific need. The other really common one for adults is older cats who need a hospice foster, which means they are close to the end of their life, where they have a chronic illness like kidney disease or diabetes, something like that, where they need constant care and low stress until we can find them a rescue or a forever home. And then we always have cats that have weird things that come in, like the little orange kitten in here, where they need, they have terrible, terrible eye infections that just can't be resolved, and we have to remove their eyes, or they have a leg amputated, and they just need to recover from surgery. Supplies for these guys are going to be, your basic cat supplies. If you don't have space to keep them in an extra room or don't want to integrate them into your own room, you can use a playpen. Some people use just a spare bathroom. I've used a spare walk-in closet before for kittens. They don't need a lot of space. Even adult cats that are recovering from surgery don't necessarily need a lot of space. Some kind of carrier for travel, food and water dishes, a litter box, blankets, all that stuff. You can have toys if they are healthy and able to move around. A heating pad is really great for sick cats and kittens to make them feel cozy, and sometimes they have trouble regulating their body temperature if they're not feeling well. A thermometer, especially for cats who have upper respiratory infections or just had surgery, to make sure they're not running a fever. And then any medical supplies that they need. This is going to vary pretty widely. A lot of times it's just your basic medication. Sometimes, especially with our hospice cats, they need subcutaneous fluids. So sometimes we send fosters home with needles and a bag of fluids to be able to provide that. Or if you're not comfortable providing that, you can come to the shelter as often as they need it, and our technicians will do it. So I'm not 100% sure if Fulton and the community center do hospice fostering and stuff like that, but DeKalb definitely does. All right, so the last thing to consider is, what kind of experience do you have? I mean, if you are a pro at staying up late and you have a roommate who wakes up really early, that could be a really great, kind of co-team for bottle babies. If you love waking up for bottle babies and you've done it before, obviously you can keep doing bottle babies. If you don't have any experience, starting with Those older kittens that don't require a ton of work, or a mom and babies, is probably going to work better for you. I do warn you to beware of biting off more than you can chew. Fatigue, compassion fatigue is a huge thing in the foster community, feeling like you're giving it your all and just not getting anywhere. So realizing that it's definitely okay to start small and work your way up, or, well, I guess in this case, it's start big and work your way down, because the easiest ones are the older ones. But definitely having a conversation with your foster coordinator and feeling okay to tell us no if you don't feel comfortable taking that animal when we ask. Signing up to foster doesn't necessarily mean you have to say yes. It's okay to say no, but it gives you the opportunity to say yes when the need arises. Resources for our fosters. We are in the process of creating a ton of training videos and creating Dropboxes or Google Drives and webinars and stuff like that. But right now we have a ton of resources that we kind of pull from to make them available to other people. So we have the LifeLine Foster Facebook group and the brand new Feline Foster Facebook group, which is for cats specifically for any LifeLine location. The Kitten Lady is a great resource. I usually send out a little booklet about orphan kittens. She also has a website and a huge YouTube following. And that's where all of her videos came from. Thanks, Tori. She talks about everything from how to find a home for your kittens to how to say goodbye for those that don't make it, to how to make them go to the bathroom when they won't go to the bathroom. So she's got resources on everything, and I usually recommend people go there. Other places that you can go to is a list of websites. Kitten Coalition, National Kitten Rescue, Animal Sheltering, all of these guys have huge list of webinars and videos that you can watch to give you a little bit more information. In the case of an emergency, for some reason your kitten is floppy and not responding to you, or your kitten falls off of the table and breaks its leg, or your child, trips and falls onto the kitten, something like that, you're going to contact your foster coordinator immediately. This also includes if your cat gets out of the house. And we've had it happen more than once, but letting us know and letting us know what you're doing to help get that cat back into the house is really important. Any adult cats that leave the shelter are generally microchipped. So if somebody, if they get out and you can't find them and somebody does find them, they'll find their way back to us. For anything other than an emergency situation, you can go to the Best Friends Vet Access app. This is available to all of our general fosters, and it is a really great tool. It's available 24/7. You log in with a code that we send you, and you can talk to a licensed veterinarian 24 hours a day, ask questions, and they'll let you know if you need to contact us or not, or set up an appointment, or if it's just no big deal. Knowing fading kitten protocol and how to take temperatures for a kitten who is cold, or their blood sugar is low, or they're just not responding to you is really important. We have flyers created for this, and we're also working on a bottle baby training, which goes over fading kitten protocol a little bit more in depth. For non-urgent situations like scheduling boosters or something like that, you're going to send us an email. And then for urgent situations, while the shelter is open, call the shelter. And if you can't reach the shelter, call the foster emergency line. This kind of helps us keep track of what's going on, but it also keeps us from having to field 8 million calls a day. It's a lot easier to answer emails in the morning before everybody's awake than it is to take 10 phone calls at the same time. So getting a hold of us by email is a lot easier for us. And then just so everyone's aware, any emergency visits to an approved emergency veterinarian, or even if you want to take your kitten to an outside veterinarian, they need to be approved, and anything that's not approved, we don't reimburse for. So make sure that you're contacting us in case your kitten has any kind of medical needs. If you're ready to foster and you haven't already signed up, you can go to lifelineanimal.org/kittensitting and fill out the questionnaire. Select which categories of kittens you're interested in, and then one of the foster coordinators from that location will contact you once kittens in that category are available. If you can't foster or have decided that maybe it's not for you, after watching this presentation, you can always donate supplies or make monetary donations to help us purchase supplies. You can also get cool cat t-shirts, so Team Toe Beans and Feisty AF. I'm not sure if those are going to stay available or if there's a limited date on them, but they're available now. So if you can go get them now, go get them. Finally, and I think somebody mentioned this in the chat, this is our little surprise. The kitten lady, surprise, surprise, is doing a 4-part webinar series with Royal Canin, who is the company that makes Mom and Baby Cat and a ton of other foods, obviously, but we use Mom and Baby Cat in the shelter, so it's really high quality stuff. This is part 2 of a 4-part series, Beyond the Bottle, Caring for Growing Kittens. She already has a recorded bottle baby webinar up that you can watch also. So all of these, once you register for them, will be recorded and available to you. All right, I think it's about 1:40, so we have time for some questions.
All right, so I think in the chat a little earlier, we did get a question from Molly. And I just wanted to, hopefully I got her question correct. I'm pretty sure Molly is asking what's the process if they're interested in fostering kittens and cats and they already have a kitten or cat as a pet?
I usually recommend keeping them separate for at least 2 weeks. And then if your cat or kitten seems interested in meeting them, you can introduce them as long as there aren't any signs of illness. If you have a spare bedroom to keep them in, or if you have a place where you can kind of keep them away, like I keep my bottle babies and stuff like that because I usually only foster young kittens in a Rubbermaid bin like you saw in the video, but I'll put that inside of a dog crate so that my cats don't have like immediate access to them because they will jump in there and just like sit on them, and my cats are huge. But I think that you can foster with other animals in your home, but your animals come first. So if they're really, really uncomfortable with having other animals in the home, finding a way to separate them so they don't even know they're there, or maybe fostering is not a great option for you, but definitely if you can keep them separated, I think that's the easiest way to integrate fostering into a home that already has animals. Oh.
From a couple people. Are there any kittens to foster currently?
Not right now. We have a few out to foster right now, but we don't have a ton of kittens coming in. There's maybe, one litter every other day for DeKalb. I'm not sure if Fulton is in the same boat, but we're definitely reaching out to people as they come in.
Okay. And we did have a question from Ash, and I could answer this one for Ash. Ash was asking if a foster coach program for fosters will be implemented at DCAS at our DeKalb location. So we are looking to have that support system in place at all of our locations. So Fulton, DeKalb, and our community animal center. And when you do become a foster with us, we'll make sure you get that information to help support you as a foster. Let's see. We do have a question from Tori. Will the webinars be sufficient training for bottle feeding, or will we need in-person training?
Are you talking about the Bottle Baby specific webinar or online webinars? Online webinars. Okay, so I mean, I never had anybody sit down and show me how to bottle feed. I learned everything from watching videos online, but I think it depends on the kind of learner you are. I'm a very hands-on learner and get stressed out when other people try to teach me things. So I prefer to learn on my own and ask questions. But yeah, I think it just depends on how you learn best. If you're the kind of person that learns really easily watching videos and stuff like that, that's awesome. If you're the kind of person who wants to sit down with your foster coordinator and learn how to bottle feed, or if you want, once we don't have to social distance anymore, sometimes sitting down with another foster who has experience is helpful. But I think you can learn the basics from online webinars, and then the rest of it just kind of comes from experience and talking with people who have experience.
All right. We do have a question from Denise. Denise is asking, what category of fostering do you usually have more availability for?
Oh, we get a pretty good mix. I would say probably we have more younger kittens because, well, like probably right in the middle, like the 3 to 5 week olds, because they're just starting to adventure away from mom, and people see a kitten that's small and they panic, so they bring them into us. But like the teeny tinies we get quite a bit of, and then older kittens we see quite a bit of. But I think in terms of fostering, we need more people willing to foster bottle babies because they can't survive in the shelter overnight. But in terms of people asking us to foster, we have way more people who want to foster the older kittens because they're easier, or they work, or moms and babies. So I would say we need more, definitely need more bottle baby fosters, but most commonly people are coming to us for older kittens.
All right, and Renee has a question. Do the fosters need to take the kittens, cats to adoption events at places like PetSmart, etc.?
No, please don't take them anywhere.
And of course, especially not during COVID-19 times. Okay, let's see here.
Yeah, I think the easiest way is to just kind of post on Facebook and see if anybody bites. And um, generally, when they hit the 2 pounds, they come back to the shelter if they're not already adopted, so that anybody walking in um, can see them. Our cats are really hard to adopt from a foster home. That's why we don't send adult cats out for just general fostering, because they don't get adopted. They get adopted from people walking into the shelter.
All right, Tori has a question. At what age are the foster kittens tested for feline leukemia?
It varies, and it depends also on how healthy they are. If they're very, very, very sick, we might test them a little bit younger. Generally, they get tested if they go out to foster as teeny, teeny tinies. We don't generally test them until they're, I would say, minimum 4 weeks, but usually when they have surgery, so that it's not traumatic for them. Um, we we will do testing on any animal before it goes on our adoption floor. Um, but yeah, it definitely depends on them. But I would say probably the absolute youngest would be 4 weeks, but on average between 6 and 8 weeks, we'll test them.
Jennifer has a question that most people fostering might have. What if I want to adopt an animal I'm fostering?
You let us know. We have an adoption questionnaire that you will fill out, and then when the animal is ready to get fixed, you'll drop them off for surgery in the morning, pick them up at night, and or in the afternoon, evening, and finalize the adoption then.
Laura is asking, I assume she is mentioning the kitten sit-in form, but Laura asks, what is the process after we have filled out the kitten sit-in form?
I'm not sure about the community center, but I know Michelle and I have talked about, usually we will pull emails from that kitten sit-in form. Michelle is the foster coordinator at Fulton County. Usually we will pull emails from that form and send out an email with the cat foster manual, see what you're interested in. And then when we have kittens available, we will reach out to people based on what they have selected from those categories. And then once they take kittens home, we send a welcome email that has all of your kittens' information in it, and then the fading kitten protocol and taking temperatures flyers, and a bunch of resources and how to schedule boosters and stuff like that. So you get all of the information up front when you're talking to us, and then you also get a reminder email letting you know when everything's due. So.
All right. I think that helped answer a question Michelle Doles. Moving on to Virginia. For first-time fosters, does the home visit occur before getting kittens? And that's actually the home visit, since we're in COVID-19 crazy times right now. We're currently not doing home visits, but typically they would happen within the first 6 months. All right. All right, Renee is asking, I think, all LifeLine locations. So Renee is asking, she filled out the form yesterday, and she's wondering if they go to all LifeLine locations or just the cab.
If you filled out the kitten sit-in form, it compiles into a spreadsheet that we all have access to at all locations. But when you fill it out, I think it should still ask you what location you prefer. So if you put no preference, somebody will reach out to you. But if you specified DeKalb or the Community Animal Center or Fulton, then the foster coordinator from that location will reach out to you.
All right, and then Rowan is asking, do you ever get pregnant mothers, and are they available to foster before they give birth?
Yes, we get pregnant mothers. And if we can find a foster for them, we like sending them out. I don't have a problem with it, especially at DeKalb. There are some places who don't like to do it, but it also depends on the health of the mother and if we think that she can give birth safely. So that's generally a case-by-case basis that we consult our veterinarian on. And also depending who is available and what experience they have, because a mom giving birth can go very well and it can also not go very well. So making sure that we have access to people who have done the research and also giving them the resources that they need, like the Best Friends Vet Access app, to make sure that they have help when they need it. So yes, we do, but not all the time.
Let's see. So many comments. This is a great chat room.
I know, it's wild.
So Deborah is asking, and this might be a difficult question to answer. What's the average length of time from start to adoption?
Average, if you're just taking like your standard kittens, once they hit 8 weeks, they can go up for adoption, or once they hit 2 pounds. So it depends on how old they are when you get them. If you take a day-old kitten, it's probably going to be 2.5 months. If you take a 6-week-old kitten, it could be 2 weeks. That's for healthy kittens. If they get sick, they need to finish their medications before they can have surgery. And then, older cats, especially if they're in like hospice care. I mean, I've had a cat that is in hospice care for 5 months now. Or if they're recovering from surgery and having complications. Probably most common is under 2 months, but it varies depending on what happens. That doesn't mean that you need to commit to that whole time, but if you give us a day or two in advance, if you can't foster anymore, to let us know before you drop kittens off, we can find a new foster for them. So you can foster pretty much as long as you want to, but if for any reason you can't foster anymore, you just need to let us know.
All right, and we do have probably a lot more questions and only maybe 6 more minutes. And so I did want to kind of skip through a couple. Linda did have a question about how many home visits during a period of time. So home visits are regulated by the Department of Agriculture through our shelter, and they're supposed to happen every 6 months. So every 6 months you should expect a home visit. Let's see here. So JJW's iPhone asked, I fostered for LifeLine last year. Do I need to fill out the form again?
It depends on the location that you fostered for. If you fostered for Fulton, probably not. Michelle probably still has your information, but if you fostered for DeKalb, I just started this position in mid-December. So I don't have a lot of people's information. So if you fostered last year and want to foster again, it helps me a lot for you to fill that form out again so that I know that you're interested in fostering again.
All right, and I think our amazing current fosters and volunteers and staff on the chat helped answer a lot of questions actually already. But the very last question that popped up again in the chat earlier is, where can we see the kittens available for fostering?
Oh gosh. Right now it's a little more difficult as we, once the kittens come in, usually we just reach out to a specific foster. But once kitten season really hits, we're looking at getting, several litters a day. And generally we'll send out just kind of, either we'll send out a mass email and the first people who contact us back with which litter they want, we'll get them. Or when the shelters become available for people to actually come in, you can walk in and see who's available. But I think I might be working on a way to figure out how to get kittens either online or start like a group. You can also join our Facebook page to see. Sometimes we'll post emergency needs for kittens on there, like if they come in right before we close. So it's a little bit of everything. When the shelter is open, you can come into the shelter. When the shelter is not open, who knows when they will open. Email us, we'll tell you who's available.
We do have two questions pop up. When is kitten season?
April through October. And the farther south you go, the longer it gets. So we generally see our highest intake, I think, probably June, July, August. But it really picks up in May, end of April, early May.
And then Renee did ask, is the LifeLine Feline Facebook group active now? So yes, it is, Renee. We do ask that you're a current foster. So once you do get a kitten or a cat and start fostering with us, then you can join that group and we can support you via Facebook. All right. And it looks like that has been all the questions. If there's any more last minute questions. Oh, let's see. So Aaron asked, is it possible to have our application shared among all of the shelters so that we don't have to apply multiple times?
I have done that with other people. If they can't fill out the paperwork again, I'll contact the foster coordinator from the other location and get their information. But I just need, like, if you send me an email with your name, or if you've already filed actual paperwork and just contact through the kitten sitting questionnaire, like the sign up form, and then make a note that you've already fostered, then I can get with the foster coordinator from CAC. But it is sometimes easier, especially if the different locations have different paperwork, for you to go ahead and fill it out again for us. So it can go either way. It just depends on what you need.
All right. And then I guess we'll just end with this last question from Allegra. Would you ever send out 1 to 2 kittens for fostering, or is it always a whole litter of kittens?
I have, yes, yeah. We send out we call them singletons, but they don't tend to do as well when they're by themselves. So even if we have a single kitten come in, we try to find a match for it. So we might send you home with a single kitten temporarily, and then find a friend for it and ask you if you would be willing to kind of pair them up. But if you, I mean, we're never going to ask you to take more kittens than you're willing to take. If you're willing to foster one kitten, that still helps us.
All right, I think that's all the questions we have.
Yay. All right. It's 2:01, so don't forget, if you're interested in learning about taking care of older kittens in a more in-depth way, the Kitten Lady is having her webinar that should be starting in the next couple of minutes. So if you're interested in that, I'm pretty sure most of us are probably going to be skipping on over there. So thanks everyone for coming. Don't forget to sign up and donate if you can, and stay in touch.